Hello, and welcome to another Win Daily Sports show here on HNB Media TV. My name is Michael Rasile. I got my man Ghost here with me, and as you can see, we are talking John Wall. We are talking Russell Westbrook, some Rockets, some Wizards. We'll get a little bit of that Lakers talking because we know everybody loves that, and hey, it's LeBron, right? But I'm very excited to do this episode. Ghost is one of the smartest people I know when it comes to the NBA, whether that's fantasy, whether that's betting, whether that's just general understanding. And when this trade went down yesterday, I immediately texted our good friend TPJ and said, man, I need to do an episode tomorrow if you're all right with it. He said, absolutely. So I got my man Ghost here with me. Ghost, before we get into anything, other than the trade and everything going on, how are you today on this Thursday?
I'm good. We're one day closer to Friday, one day closer to holiday season, one day closer to NBA season. It's a beautiful day to be alive.
It's a beautiful day to be alive. One day closer to Sunday. One day closer to Sunday. No Thursday night football. A little disappointing. At least we had Wednesday day football. That was kind of fun. Yeah. But everybody out there,
we'll take it.
I'll take any football. Any day with football is a good day. Everybody out there, please make sure to follow him at DFS_Ghost on Twitter. Me, Michael Rasile1, us at Win Daily Sports. Make sure to hop over to windailysports.com/chat. You get 7 free days in our expert Discord chat. What is that? It's just an instant messenger where we talk about sports and we help you win a boatload of money in fantasy and in betting and everywhere else. We just have some fun with it. We've built a pretty darn cool community over there, and we appreciate each and every one of them. Hopefully some of them are watching us tonight and some of them are going to get excited, but we are here talking Russell Westbrook. We are here talking John Wall, and I guess there's a first round pick. It's a weird ass first round pick. If I'm not mistaken, it's super top protected. It might not even get actually used until 2026 at this point. And even then it's still like top 9 protected in that. So man, Russell Westbrook's just getting traded for first round picks everywhere. But let's break it down. We got John Wall, we got Russell Westbrook, 2 dudes that massive contracts, just massive, insane contracts. Again, we throw in that first round pick. Talk to me a little bit about the trade and some of your initial thoughts, Ghost.
Bro, what is Washington doing? I honestly don't get this trade from Houston. This is possibly, if we're talking about them staying relevant this season, this is probably one of, if not the best deals that they could have pulled off by shipping Westbrook out. I mean, who else are you going to get for Russell Westbrook and that contract that can contribute and give you wins right away? And, we're not talking about building for the future. We want to keep Harden in Houston. Who else can you possibly get other than John Wall? And I love this deal for Houston. For the Wizards, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing now? Now you're what? You're gonna fight. You're gonna claw your way to an 8th seed in the East for what? To get swept by the Bucks? To get swept by the Nets? Raps? Sixers? Any one of these teams sweep Washington. Not even a dent in sight. Like there's no contest. Any one of them sweep Washington. What are you doing? You need draft picks. You need high quality draft picks. You need to rebuild that roster. What is Bradley Beal going to go out there and do with $80 million committed to Davis Bertans and Russell Westbrook? Like, I honestly don't get it. Like, now on top of that, you're possibly diminishing Bradley Beal's trade market value because Westbrook needs the ball in his hands. So Bradley Beal, yeah, he could still drop 25 to 30 a night. Gonna have a hard time doing it now that Russell Westbrook needs to have the ball in his hands like for 48 straight minutes. What are you doing right now? What you're gonna say? Oh, I want to fight for the playoffs. Why? Why do you want to make the playoffs? To get swept by any one of those teams I mentioned, sweep the Wizards. Not like they don't win a single game. Why are you fighting for an 8th seed? Like I honestly don't get it. What are they doing? And we were waiting for years to finally see John Wall come back and, have a formidable backcourt with Bradley Beal. For all we know, John Wall goes out there and balls out. How do we know? Like everyone's going to say, oh, well, he had an Achilles injury, had a heel injury, had both at one point. Okay, that granted, I'm not diminishing the significance of those injuries. But how do we know what he's going to come back and do? Well, we're going to base on what he does based on previous Achilles injuries. So what, Klay Thompson's done too? The Warriors are going to trade Klay Thompson now? Klay Thompson's career is done? KD is not going to be the same this year? Like he's going to be barely a top 25 player in the league? Like I don't understand. Why are you giving up on a guy? If I'm Houston right now, I know what I have in Russell Westbrook. I know exactly what I got last season. We had a full season Westbrook Harden. It didn't work. Let's be nice about it and keep it short and sweet. It just didn't work. So now you know what you have.
Russell Westbrook was pretty solid last year. Like no one thought it was going to work, and obviously we saw it didn't work. But pre-bubble, right? Like he got COVID, then he had that hamstring or quad injury, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously it just didn't work out. We watched that, but they were pretty solid in that lead up to the bubble.
I agree. Westbrook was solid. But if you're Houston right now, what is your main priority? You want to keep James Harden in town.
Yeah, but like, that's the thing. I have to go with the assumption that James Harden said okay to this, right? Like I feel like if they do want to actually keep him in town, he said, yeah, sure. I would like to try. I'll play with John Wall. That would be kind of fun.
Well, that's exactly what you want to do. So you know that Westbrook individually had a pretty decent season. I'm not taking that away from him. He's a guy that he's still only 32 years old. He'll probably I don't want to say he's going to average a triple double with Washington, but he's still going to have so many triple doubles that he's going to be a stat machine in Washington. That's fine. He's still going to be a good basketball player. But you know that Westbrook and Harden did not work together. And the priority there is keeping Harden. So it's a very easy decision to be made. You knew exactly what you had with Russell Westbrook. You had a full season. Harden didn't like playing with him, or at least it didn't look like it. I don't know if he voiced that publicly, but there were multiple reports saying that they didn't like playing together, right? Westbrook said publicly that he wanted out. Harden was saying he wanted out. So at one point, it's like, okay, these guys, you could make the assumption that they don't like playing together. So Westbrook gets shipped out. Now you bring in John Wall. You know exactly what you had with Westbrook, and you're trading one bad contract for another, but for all you know, when John Wall was in the league, people tend to forget how good John Wall was.
John Wall was really good.
Because it's been so long that we got a full 82 out of John Wall. Bro, John Wall, I think the last time he played a full 82 was 2017. John Wall is a top 10 NBA player in 2017.
It's 2020, but it's 2021 now. But so long. That's so long ago.
I'm still willing. If I'm sitting there, I'm in the Houston front office, and I'm like, okay, we got two guys that don't like playing together. We need to keep James Harden. No disrespect, Russ. We need to keep James Harden. Yeah. You need to keep arguably the most polarizing offensive player the league has ever seen in who knows how many years. So you need to keep James Harden on your roster. So Russ is short end of the stick there. It's fine. Now you're bringing in John Wall, and for all you know, he can be vintage John Wall. Is he going to be as explosive? Man, that's a risk. Achilles injury, heel injury, even had both at one time. I'm willing to lean on the side that, you know what, he's not going to be as explosive as he was. But how do you know they're not going to coexist better together than Westbrook and Harden? That to me is such a good trade for them, because right now all you're doing is you're buying yourself time. At the very worst case, even if this doesn't work, all you're doing is you're buying yourself time to keep Harden on your roster or fish for an even bigger deal. Who's to say that, you know what? Let's say someone in the East goes down, someone in the West goes down with an injury, a significant player. Not going to name anybody because I never wish that upon any single athlete ever in any other sport. But let's say a contending team or someone that's even just a playoff bubble team, someone that you think could make a run, one of their two stars goes down. And then all of a sudden you get Golden State that comes out hot. And then they come knocking and want James Harden. His value increases a lot. And then on the flip side, what happens if Bradley Beal's value goes down? James Harden's just went up even more, as if it couldn't be high enough, because everyone's saying, okay, well, if we can't get Giannis, we want Harden, pretty at par. You know, Giannis, younger player, back-to-back MVPs. Probably most people will probably take Giannis on their team before James Harden. But when we're talking about strict, you have two shooting guards, two guys that are polarizing on the offensive end of the ball. You're saying, okay, if I can't get Harden, my fallback option is Bradley Beal. What if Bradley Beal suffers so badly from Russell Westbrook on his team that all of a sudden that actually increases James Harden's value? And then the trade deadline comes around and you got Golden State come knocking. Like these are things that Houston put themselves in such a good position, because at the very worst case that I could see happening is that John Wall is either not healthy at all, like maybe even barely plays because of that, possibly gets injured again, who knows, re-aggravates injuries. That's a thing in sports too, especially with Achilles and heel injuries. I mean, those things can re-aggravate at any time. So if he re-aggravates an injury, doesn't even play, well, now you got James Harden playing ISO, dropping 40 a night. increasing his trade value. Like I love this trade for Houston.
And they get the first round pick.
They have nothing to lose. There's literally nothing to lose there. Whereas with Washington, if I'm Washington right now, I'm not calling. I'm running. I am sprinting to Miami. I don't care how long it takes. You are running to Miami. You're knocking on Pat Riley's door and you're saying, you're begging him to give you Tyler Hero for Bradley Beal. Because this could only work out badly for Washington. Other than potentially grabbing an 8 seed and getting swept in the playoffs. What good does that do you?
Money.
Other than that, if people see that as a positive, great. Okay, then I will give you that positive. I'm saying, like, realistically right now, Bradley Beal's trade value can go down by playing with Russell Westbrook.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you don't want. That's exactly what you don't want. Why do you want Bradley Beal's trade value go down?
We're looking at this from the perspective of James Harden and Russell Westbrook more so than the John Wall, Bradley Beal perspective, right? They were pretty solid together. As you said, it's been since 2017 and we're coming up, this is December 3rd of 2020. So it's been a minute since we really were able to see. And I was listening to some stuff earlier today about what those Wizards teams were able to do in the playoffs. And it was pretty impressive. There was the one, they were, I think, game 6 against the Hawks, that 60-win Hawks team, when then John Wall breaks his hand, if I'm not mistaken, or his wrist in the playoffs. Like, they did some incredible stuff. And I can't remember the exact date, but it was from like 1981 or 1978 to 2014. The Wizards won a single postseason series. And then after that, from 2015, 16, 17, they, I think, won 4 or 5 in that time span, or something along those lines. And it's just impressive what those two were able to do together. It's just been so long since we've seen John Wall. And it's just one of those things, man. Like, they're both, the contracts are pretty much it's just a wash. Like, all this was Russell Westbrook wanted to leave. John Wall heard his name come up in trade discussions a couple weeks ago and said, okay, well, you get me out. I'm kind of curious. Do you think Washington management went to Bradley Beal about this, right? We're all thinking, well, oh, James Harden signed off on it. James Harden signed off on it. Well, Washington, I think they kind of know, like, John Wall, that was fun. It was great, but he's been hurt for the last 4 years. We can't really count on him as much as we can at least see what Bradley Beal's been able to do since he's been hurt. Do you think Washington's management was like, hey, Bradley Beal, is this okay? Would you be interested in playing with Russell Westbrook? Why not, though, right? We're only thinking about it from the James Harden side. Why not the Bradley Beal side?
I would like to think that they did. I really don't think that they did. I don't think they consulted Bradley Beal on this trade. Or if they did, it was kind of like a, hey, this is what we're doing. We're not asking you for permission. We're letting you know that this is what we're doing. And then they kind of sold it to him as, well, you needed help in order for us to get to the playoffs. And they pitched this to him as, you can win in Washington. That's the way I saw this going down. Like if you were to sell this to Bradley Beal, he's going to say, okay, well, why are we dealing John Wall? Like, we've waited years for him to finally be healthy. And then they could kind of spin it as exactly like what we were talking about before. What if he, possibly gets injured again? And then you're back out there frustrated, basically playing alone. No disrespect to guys like Thomas Bryant and Rui and Davis Bertans. These are all guys that can, what? Like they can contribute, but we're talking about championship teams here. Hashimura, Thomas Bryant, and Davis Bertans is not a championship basketball team. Yeah. Let's just get that to the side right now. That is not a championship NBA team. So they're selling it to him as, we're giving you a formidable duo now. Whereas with John Wall, you're waiting for years and years for him to finally come back. And what if he's back physically, but not in every other aspect?
Yeah.
What if he's out there on the court with you for 82 games, but he's not John Wall? That's the way that I would think that they would sell this to him. And it wasn't like we're asking you for permission. It's more like, this is what we're doing and here's why.
And maybe that is that way. Honestly, I think we're kind of selling Bradley Beal short a little bit, because I think the Wizards know they need to keep somebody in town. They need somebody on their franchise, right? Like, Rui's great, and the Wizards are crushing it in Japan. Just check out some of the stuff that's been posted about, like, sincerely, like their Japanese business is booming because they were able to grab him, and they're doing some really cool stuff, like doing their games in Japanese to be able to. It's like they're doing some pretty cool stuff. So shout out to them for that, but Yeah, we kind of know that he's not this monster. Shout out Gonzaga and everything that he was able to do, but they need Bradley Beal on the team. I disagree with you. I honestly think they went to him and said, maybe not like, hey, can we do this, but let's work out a way. Like, does this make sense to you? I don't think, if he said no, no way, he still hasn't asked for the trade, right? So I think if he hated it that much, if you hate it as much as he did, he would have eventually at some point been like, guys, get me the hell out of here. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. Now, maybe he said that behind closed doors, but we all know nothing is behind closed doors in the NBA. No. They bring all their dirty laundry out into the public because that's the only way they can get shit done. So I don't think, like, I totally understand where you're coming from. We did see this kind of come up a couple weeks ago, and then John Wall said, okay, well, you have to get me out of here now. I think the Wizards were kind of cool with that. It's just like, honestly, like, this has kind of run its course. Like, we appreciate everything you did, and thank you so much, but at least we know Russell Westbrook's going to give effort. We at least know he's going to try. Not to say John Wall wasn't rehabbing at his full potential, but what was it? Like he hurt his heel, or he did something, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I like fell down the stairs. So now I can't play for another 3 years. It's like, what the hell's going on, man? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know the guy. Sure, he's a nice guy. I'm not going to come out here and say anything stupid like Colin Cowherd would, but like, you at least have to throw up your arms and be like, really? Like, come on, man. You couldn't like not, everybody knows don't wear socks on stairs that don't have rugs. But this guy apparently makes $50 million a year. He doesn't know that. So I don't know.
And the thing there too is that, even if they didn't consult him, John Wall publicly said, like, I want out.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So if Bradley Beal comes, huffing and puffing in the front office, they're going to say, bro, he publicly demanded a trade. Like, this is news to the entire world that he said, I want out. And Bradley Beal's not a stupid guy either. He knows how bad John Wall's contract is. Guy hasn't touched a basketball court in, 36 months? Like, he hasn't touched a basketball court. So they're doing the best that they can with that contract without attaching. Like, if you have to attach a first round pick to get rid of Al Horford, him too, it's a bad contract. Imagine what you have to do to get rid of John Wall's contract. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to attach who knows how many first round picks and then you're not even replacing that with a player that could contribute now. That would be the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. So to them, even if they didn't consult Bradley Beal, it's a pretty easily like you could easily defend that move in the sense that, look, we got you the closest thing to a stud that we can get to pair up with you, while also not mortgaging the future and giving out 5 first round picks just to offload this contract. So
hopefully it works out. I mean, yeah, it would be kind of cool to see the Wizards in the playoffs, see Russ do his thing in the playoffs. It's always fun. I mean, we've seen the dude ball out before. We've seen Bradley Beal ball out in the playoffs. So just get them to the playoffs. That's all we're asking for.
Free Bradley Beal. Free Bradley Beal.
Yeah, hashtag free Bradley Beal. Go
free Bradley Beal.
Tyler Hero.
Call Miami. Bet you beg them. You beg them to trade you Tyler Hero for Bradley Beal, and you do it right now.
I think you can get a little bit more.
You can. It won't be 1-for-1. You could definitely get more. That's what I'm saying. But you need Tyler Hero coming back on the other side.
It'd be pretty
That's
sweet.
What you got to do.
I'd watch that team. Nah, I probably wouldn't. I take that back. I'm not gonna watch that in the playoffs. I'd watch that team, but I'm not gonna try and tune in on NBA TV or anything. But it is interesting. It is fun. You were very fired up about it yesterday, so I was excited to get you on today to get some of those thoughts. I mean, in terms of the teams, though, we have literally no idea what we're gonna see out of the Rockets. Right? They have James Harden, so we know he's gonna do really well. They got rid of Covington, PJ Tucker. I think he's still there, but I don't know how much longer he's gonna be there for. They bring in Boogie Cousins, which is cool, but he's been also hurt the last 2 years. I think he's coming off an ACL or an Achilles. Kind of cool. They bring in John Wall. So him and Boogie were really good 10 years ago together in college. So that was kind of fun. What does Houston look like? I mean, you got James Harden, you got John Wall, maybe Boogie Cousins, see whoever else they kind of figure out to bring in. Does this team still make I think the team still makes the playoffs because of James Harden. Period. End of sentence. But is there anything they could possibly do after that?
The key piece for me here is one that you hadn't mentioned yet, and that's Christian Wood. So
sure.
The issue with the Rockets last season, I would say, like, outside of their locker room drama, I'm talking like purely basketball now, like none of this NBA gossip stuff there. We're talking purely basketball right now. I feel like their main issue with, preventing them from getting to that next step was that they committed so hard to small ball, but they didn't have a small ball center. PJ Tucker is not a small ball center. Mm-hmm. Like, so by bringing in a guy like Christian Wood, who him too, he was kind of in that Detroit big man purgatory, which just got 100 times worse this offseason. They went full Knicks mode, did Detroit. So luckily Christian Wood's out of there. This is a guy that they can really let run loose now because he's a force on the glass. He could score. He's a guy that could get up and down the court very quickly with James Harden. So that to me would be the X factor there. I mean, obviously this team can only go as far as James Harden ends up taking them. And yes, we want to see, vintage Boogie. I'd love to see 2012, 2013 Boogie Cousins out sweet. There. That'd be nice. That'd be really nice to see, where you end up seeing John Wall running a pick and roll with Boogie Cousins like they're back in Kentucky. That'd be absolutely nuts. But let's be realistic with ourselves. Chances of that happening, I'm not completely negative of it happening, but again, chances are pretty low that they're going to be, the exact versions of themselves that they were prior to all these injuries that they've had. So this team will only go as far as James Harden takes it. But if Christian Wood could really develop on, I don't even want to just say the season that he had last season. He had a good season prior to that as well. So if he could build on what he's been doing in the past 2 years and, really blossom in that role where he's playing 32 plus minutes a night regularly. And, he's a consistent contributor in the fact that I think Christian Wood could easily average 15 and 10 this season. Like he's a guy that he's that strong on the glass. 10 rebounds is a lot to average per game, but he's that good on the glass and he's that good on the offensive glass too. Like people end up talking about Tristan Thompson on the offensive glass, then absolutely he's a monster on the offensive glass, but Christian Wood is really good out there. So I'm curious to see how teams end up lining up versus the Rockets. And when teams typically do end up trying to match up against small ball lineups, their weakest point is usually at the 5. And Christian Wood could be a big mismatch for any team out there. So looking forward to see them run out there. I hope James Harden stays. It'd be nice to see him carry this team to the playoffs. And playoff time comes around, you never know what could happen. So
exactly,
especially with a lot of these teams out there in the West, if one of their stars go down, it blows up. Like we saw what happened with the Warriors when Klay Thompson went down. We're already talking about how the West reseeding, like it's going to go nuts. What happens in Dallas if one of them go down in either LA team? Like a lot of these stars are not exactly known for their for their durability either. So you never know what could happen out there, especially if Houston ends up, finishing as an 8 or a 7 seed. They can make some noise. I'm not expecting them to. I think they get bounced first round if they do end up making it. But Harden's going to carry this team. He's gonna go out there and do his thing.
He always does, and he is either you love watching him play or you hate watching him play. I usually end up in the latter. I love his highlights though. I gotta say, the dude has some incredible highlights, so it's always fun to watch those. Can't watch a 48-minute basketball game with him though. It's so frustrating. As more of a casual fan, nah, I'm good, man. Give me Warriors basketball each and every day. I like watching the ball move. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that I live 20 minutes from Princeton. I don't know, man. It is what it is. But thank you for laughing at my joke, Ghost. But I will say, why can't we say the same thing about the Wizards then? Why can't we say what happened? Because literally all that happened was the Wizards almost made the playoffs, and then they add somebody like John Wall. I apologize. They add Russell Westbrook. But that's essentially all that happened. They didn't have John Wall for the last 3 years. And shout out to him. Hopefully he gets better and can play. Same thing. I realize we kind of barely have seen Boogie Cousins on the court for the last 3 years, ever since he got hurt in New Orleans. And then obviously with the Warriors, and then last year with the Lakers. So he's barely been on the court for the last 3 years either. So we'll see what happens in Houston. But you take this Wizards team as essentially as they were constituted. You add Russell Westbrook to it. They were already the 7th, 9th seed, 10th seed, wherever the heck they were. They made it to the bubble. We all kind of thought it was a joke, but they were there. All you have to do is be in the 9th seed now, and then you get that play-in game. So, I mean, again, like, I understand from your perspective, like, are you playing for the 8th seed in the playoffs? No. And we all know in the NBA, if you're in that, you're essentially like 6th seed to top, anywhere, if you're not in the bottom like 5 teams, you're just going to suck. You're just going to be on that treadmill of mediocrity, and it's the hardest thing to get off of in the NBA. But like going to the playoffs is fun, right? Like it's at least something. So unless they unloaded everybody, all you really did was just switch one guy that you haven't had for 3 years for a guy that we know is still solid. Contracts are all the same. Nothing really changes. That first round pick, yes, we can call it a first round pick, but we know in the NBA, it's literally first round, like lottery protected until 2025. And then in 2026, it's still top 9 protected. So it's not like that pick means anything. Like if you're not in the top 10 and you're not the Spurs, You're not getting anything in the first round, so who cares? So it's just one of those things. Like, I don't know, why not take the shot? Like, who the hell cares? See what happens. At least you might make a run. Somebody might get hurt. Knock on wood, nobody does, but somebody always does. Some team's going to suck a little bit more than you think. Maybe they end up in that 6th seed. Maybe they win a round in the playoffs. That's more fun than not making the playoffs and being exactly where you were anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking purely from an entertainment standpoint for their fan base, of course, you want playoff basketball. It doesn't matter how bad you are. It doesn't matter if you get swept. It doesn't matter if you get blown off the court 140 to 100 for 4 games straight, including 2 at home. It doesn't matter because you're giving your team, your franchise, your fan base at least 2 games at home. Even if there might not be fans there, you still got 2 games in your arena, right? So from that standpoint, I do agree with it. It's something that they could look back at that year and say, well, look, we made the moves that we made and we made the playoffs. Because no one's going to focus on the fact that, Kevin Durant dropped 35 on you per game and didn't play a single fourth quarter for 4 games straight and you got blown off the court. No one cares about that.
I like what they're going to say is that that's a nice picture you're painting though. I can see it already.
So what they're going to say is, wow, the Wizards ended up making the playoffs. And then the best part is that you have no expectations. If the Wizards line up against the Bucks right now, they're going to say, oh, man, they're facing Giannis. What are they going to do? And they got Jrue Holiday now. And Brook Lopez is still, and they got all these guys. What are we going to do? Chris Middleton's still there. They're going to get swept. They're going to be happy just to win a game. Same thing goes with the Raptors. Oh, well, they won the championship, not too long ago. Kyle Lowry's still there. Siakam's still there. Fred VanVleet is still there. We're going to get swept. And you can apply that to any team there. The Nets. Oh, it's KD. Oh, they got Kyrie. Oh, they got all any team that they face, they have, I don't even want to say little to no expectations. They have no expectations.
Yep.
Like they would not be expected to win a game. So from that standpoint, I agree with it in the sense that they have nothing to lose. My main concern for them is that they end up in that NBA purgatory where you were talking about, where you're in the 8 to 12 range picking in the draft, and you're just not getting those bona fides that you could easily get a star in the 8 to 12 range, right? I'm pretty sure Devin Booker went in that range. There's a bunch of guys that end up drafting, like Draymond Green got drafted 2nd round. I'm not one of those guys that says, oh, if you don't go 1st overall, you're a bust, right? There's plenty of good players to be had all over the draft, but you're not getting the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not getting a face of the franchise when Bradley Beal leaves, because the way that I see this right now is a ticking time bomb that Bradley Beal is on his way out of town at the end of his contract. And you got to make something happen before that. So for me, it's like Russ is not enough. Because if you look at the East right now, there's 6 teams out there that could easily sweep the Wizards. So to me, it's like I'm thinking purely from the standpoint that you want to keep Bradley Beal in town and you want to sign him to a supermax, you need to not just make the playoffs and get bounced by Kevin Durant by losing 140 to 100 for 4 games straight. That will not keep Bradley Beal in town. He's going to look at you and say, bro, the roster sucks. I don't care if we made the playoffs. This roster sucks. And then you gave up potentially, right now it's only 1 draft pick, but now it's potentially draft picks along the way, because if they do that this year, what are they going to do next offseason? And what are they going to do the offseason after that?
The dragon. Yep, they need to go grab something else. Yeah,
all of a sudden, Bradley Beal's got 12 months on his contract, and they're scrambling out there like that SpongeBob meme. There was, and they're like, what are we gonna do?
They're trading. You mean they're trading 5 first-round picks for Jrue Holiday? Maybe.
And next thing you know,
shot in the dark. Don't know where that's coming from. Just shot in the
dark. Next thing you know, they're trading 5 first-round picks for a 30-something-year-old Jrue Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the biggest concern. So if you look at the East right now, it's not like, hey, we can make waves as an 8 seed. In the West, the Mavs or the Trailblazers finishing as an 8 seed is way different than the Orlando Magic or the Wizards finishing as an 8 seed. The Wizards are not beating Giannis. Damian Lillard could steal a series.
Yeah, we've seen it happen before.
Luka Doncic could steal a series. James Harden could steal a series. Russell Westbrook will not beat Giannis in a best of 7. He won't win a game. So that to me is the biggest issue, where it's like we can't compare necessarily. When I'm talking about teams like Portland and Dallas, especially, come to mind when I'm saying these 7 and 8 seeds in the West can make waves. It's nowhere near the same thing in the East, because Washington is not a competitive basketball team. So I understand the commitment that they're doing to Bradley Beal. I respect it because just like we're saying it's good for Houston because it didn't work for Westbrook and Wall, for Westbrook and Harden, excuse me, and they had to get rid of Westbrook in order to keep Harden. Well, on the Washington side, you could say, hey, we don't know what we're getting with John Wall. For all we know, he could possibly get injured again, play 20 games, and then demand a trade. And then next thing you know, like we're getting little to no value. So the fact that they could end up trading him for Russell Westbrook right now, they got nothing to lose. Yeah. And if it ends up and if it ends up buying them, similarly to what Houston's doing with Harden, buying themselves time, if it buys them another season to convince Bradley Beal to sign a supermax, I'm all for it. Because that's the ultimate goal out of this. Houston wants to keep Harden, Washington wants to keep Bradley Beal. So
they do, but they literally just signed John Wall to that supermax. His contract kicked in while he was sitting at home with a torn Achilles and a broken foot. And so do they really want to sign Bradley Beal to a supermax? I don't think so, because they already have one guy in a supermax on their team making $50 million in Russell Westbrook. So it's interesting. Yeah, I'm curious. It's difficult, right? Those supermaxes, once they're signed, it's like, oh, John Wall's making $50 million. Like, John Wall's good. And in 2017, John Wall was really good. John Wall's not worth $50 million. I mean, shout out to John Wall. Shout out to all the players. Get as much friggin' money as you can. I am 100% on that bandwagon. But then when you see what happens, it's like, all right, it's John Wall and Bradley Beal and just a bunch of dudes. Have fun, guys. They won a couple series, but that's literally it. They won a couple series. With like,
I really hope he comes back and balls out, because
it would be cool
watching John Wall back. Like, I don't even want to say back then. It wasn't even that long ago. Back in 2017, John Wall was like, obviously I'd have to look. I didn't look at this before we came on. He's probably a top 3 player in the East with LeBron. He's probably a top 3 player in the East. We'd have to go back because it is still 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But like, just I'm trying to remember if there were like any like what people like to say about De'Aaron Fox right now with how fast De'Aaron Fox plays. John Wall was faster. Bro, John Wall pushes the pace like no NBA player has done in the 2010s. So I really hope he comes back and just balls out. That'll be really fun to watch.
Injuries suck. I wish we could just play a season, turn injuries off, and see what would actually happen, because those are the best. I think that's fun. That was a fun conversation. I love the NBA. Again, the offseason is way more interesting than the actual season itself. This trade also would have been way cooler like 3 years ago, what we're talking about now, right? Like, that would have been nuts. Now it's just like, well, these two dudes are getting paid $50 million, and we all kind of agree they're definitely past their prime. They're still good. We'll see what happens with Wall. We'll see what happens with Westbrook, but they're definitely past their prime. But we will see moving forward. Last thing I do want to talk about, LeBron signs a 2-year, $85 million extension, if I'm not mistaken. AD signs a 5-year, $190 million. There we go. I'm sorry, AD. I didn't mean to take the 85 that you gave LeBron away. $190 million deal to AD. LeBron, okay, that's cool. Everyone's already speculating. He's lining it up perfectly with his son, who's coming out of who will be in the NBA the year the deal ends. So I already saw the amount of tanking that will be happening in the year prior, because wherever his son goes, he's going to go number 1 overall, because that team hopes that they're also going to be able to sign LeBron for whatever, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it ends up being, because that would be hysterical. Such a LeBron fucking move too, dude. I love it, but it's just like you have to roll your eyes at it. I love LeBron. You have to roll your eyes at it. But let's talk about the AD signing. You and I, we speculated on this, going to Chicago. Like, there's no shot now. We're kidding. But we thought he was going to just sign those 1+1s, those 2+1s, those kind of short little contracts that gives him the ability to say, all right, give me a new contract. All right, pay me more money. We already kind of know with NBA players. We saw it with Kevin Durant, right? And AD, I think, is quite, he's on that level. Even if you tear your Achilles, someone's going to give you as much money as possible, and they will literally let you do whatever you want for that 1 year that you're out. It doesn't matter, just to have you around for a little bit longer. Kevin Durant signed a 4-year deal. It's really a 3+1. So essentially, he signed with the Nets for 2 years. 1 year, he sits and rehabs, essentially, as he had to. 2 years, he plays basketball, and on the next year, he can say, all right, see you guys. And he makes $100 and whatever million. Shout out to Kevin Durant for that. Why do you think AD signed this 5-year deal, which I think is really like a 4-year, and then the 5th year I think is a player option? But why do you think he signed this 5-year deal?
I think it's more so just that, well, on one angle, he's looking at guys around him, and you know what, injuries do happen, and you never know, right? So if there's ever a franchise that you want to sign a max with, it's likely going to be a franchise like the Lakers. Like we're talking about like historic franchises in all sports, right? Like, so to them, they also probably presented it. LeBron was probably in that meeting too, saying like, look, when I leave, this is your team, right? And he knows, he doesn't have to even say that to AD. Like AD knows this is LeBron's team. Everyone knows this is LeBron's league. So to them, it's like, he's probably seeing it as like, okay, so when Bron gets out of town, this is my team. I'll likely have, 2, maybe only 1 year left on my deal. If it doesn't work, I could opt out and then just, end up going ring chasing or pair up with guys that I'm boys with or whatever. So I think it's more so from that point of view where he knows that rather than just signing one-on-ones, he knows that he was going to stay there regardless. So why risk the chance that, what if I get injured kind of thing? And then the Lakers actually don't want me. Like what if LeBron doesn't want me? Like that's the perspective that's the perspective that I could see AD saying, like, bro, what if I go down with an injury and then LeBron says, yo, I don't want this guy anymore. Let's go sign this guy. Like, the way LeBron is.
Yeah.
Like as quick as he was to team up with Kyrie, he was like, yo, get that. I'm out. If you're not shipping Kyrie, I'm out of Cleveland. Right. So it's like LeBron wants to win at all costs. So at the same time, I could see kind of AD saying like, hey, let me just, I'm staying here 5 years regardless. Let me just sign that Supermax and just collect the bag. And that's it. I was also really curious why he didn't sign a 1-on-1 though. I thought for sure he was going to sign a 1-on-1. We know for a fact he's well, not for a fact he's likely waiting on what Giannis was going to do. Because if Giannis doesn't sign the Supermax, LeBron's going to go knock in on his door and say, come to LA. But now their finances are quite tied up. So I'm curious to see how they're going to be able to try and pull that off. If Giannis doesn't end up signing with Milwaukee, of course. But I could also see it as if AD signed this 5-year deal, they have to know something about Giannis. I'm not saying he signed the Supermax, but I have LeBron is that kind of guy where I feel like if anyone was in the league and LeBron came up to you and said, yo, are you coming to LA next season? That's not a guy that you beat around the bush. LeBron James is standing in front of you. You tell him how it is. You could straight up say, I don't know it yet. So LeBron's probably like, okay, I'm not waiting for this guy. Like if he comes, great. We'll win 4 rings in a row. And then I'll just go play with my son and then retire. Or if he's probably saying, okay, let's not wait for this guy. Just, sign your contract. I'll sign mine. We'll figure it out when the time comes. That's exactly what they'll do. If next offseason, if he ends up going to see Giannis and be like, yo, you want to come? And he's like, yeah, I'm like, let's team up in LA. They'll find a way to do it. It's going to have to be a sign and trade for sure. Because they won't have the money to straight up sign him in the offseason as a free agent. So in a sign and trade, they're going to have to get that done. But you know the way LeBron is, he'll trade picks in 2040. He doesn't care. He won't be in the league.
He's not going to
he'll trade 10 first round picks. He doesn't care, right? So
it doesn't matter.
I thought for sure AD would sign a 1-on-1, but then that too would just lead to more speculation about Giannis leaving and this and that. So AD secured the bag. He's a guy that deserves it. He's a guy that's consistently in the conversation to be a top 3 player in the entire league. Personally, I don't know if I'd have him in the top 3 for league. That's for another episode. But he's a guy that's a force on both ends of the court. Came into the league, started dominating, still dominating stage. Came off a championship. If there's one guy that deserves one of those Supermax contracts, it's AD right now. So good for him securing the bag. I was hoping he would get a 1-on-1. I would really want to see Giannis out there teaming up with LeBron. That'd just be fun to watch. Obviously not fun for the rest of the league, but from an entertainment standpoint, watching Giannis, LeBron, and AD go at it together, wow.
That it would be fun. Think of what it was like with LeBronis. Whoa, I'm already doing it. LeBron, AD, and like JaVale McGee. Replace JaVale McGee with Giannis for a second and see how much fun that team would be. Yeah, I'd be 100% for it. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think also, honestly, one huge factor, and I don't know how big of a factor it is, but obviously the COVID speculation, right? Like we just saw one season get cut horrifically short, and then we had the bubble, and then the NBA. While the bubble worked out and they ended up making money, don't worry, don't feel bad for the NBA. They ended up making money because of the bubble. They made way less money than they would have. And this year, we're already starting to see the Lakers have pretty much already announced, like, we're not going to have fans in the stands for a while. But it is definitely one of those things that it's just something to pay attention to. And I think with the understanding that COVID is gonna affect this upcoming season. We don't know what's gonna happen with the salary cap, yada yada yada. I think that might have been something too. And AG just thought, hey, I can secure $190 million. Let's just take it. I mean,
that's
like,
the thing. Like, if it ends up being a flat cap, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do if it's a flat cap? Or what if it actually goes down? I mean, if there's two leagues where I could not see the cap ever going down, it's the NBA and the NFL, given how much revenue that both these leagues have. But what if the cap ends up staying flat? Or what if the cap ends up going down? Then all of a sudden your max is not as much as you had thought, right? So
exactly.
In that perspective, you have there's a bunch of things to consider. Oh, do I sign a 1-and-1, possibly bring Giannis in, this and that? At the end of the day, there was $190 million staring at him right in the face.
Exactly.
And there's how 5 more years where you could play LeBron James in the greatest franchise in the NBA. Like, I'm saying this like completely unbiased, that the Lakers are the most historical franchise in the NBA. That's like,
I don't
Lakers
think
on the South, like it's not even a conversation.
It's not a question.
So that, to me, it's like you're playing in LA for the Lakers. You have $190 million staring at you in the face, and you're playing with LeBron. Like, all that other stuff kind of goes to the side, and you're like, okay, cap could go down. Giannis might come. I want to be a team player. Bring him in. This, that, bro. Let me just sign my $190 million check, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Exactly. That's what I feel like happened. They're like, okay, we're done waiting for this guy. He hasn't said whether he's staying or going. Like, we don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna sign my contract, and we'll figure it out next offseason.
Let Rich Paul figure out the financials. We know he can do that. We're not too worried. But Ghost, man, I appreciate the hell out of you. I'm very excited. NBA, the season starts in like 19 days. I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, we start having games pretty soon. I think next week is when we actually start having games, next Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, the 11th, right?
Yeah, the 11th.
So very excited for that. So once those games do start up, you'll be seeing a lot more of us, probably like 3 or 4 days a week, talking fantasy, talking betting, talking NBA, and what the hell's going on. So very, very excited for that. Ghost, where can everybody find you on the internet?
At DFS_Ghost over on Twitter, and of course with our Win Daily Sports team in our Discord chat. Make sure you guys come and join.
Yes, our expert Discord chat. And my buddy Sia, he is also on the team. He said, you know what? We should make it easier for people to understand. What's an expert Discord chat? It's an instant messaging chat where we talk about sports and help you make money. I don't know a better way to say it, people. If that doesn't do it for you, windailysports.com/chat. You get 7 free days in our instant messaging sports chat where we help you make money. Try it out. What's literally the worst thing that can happen? You can find me at Michael Rasile 1, as he said, at DFS_Ghost. You can find us at Win Daily Sports, windailysports.com/chat for the people in the back. And we hope you make it a very, very profitable, I don't know, is there anything even on tonight? Maybe college basketball. A very profitable Thursday in the college basketball world. How's that sound, Ghost?
Let's do it.
Bye, everybody.